Hello YouTubers and fellow Whovians, and once again, welcome to another Doctor Who DVD review. For today's review, I give you the Myths and Legends box set, which features 3 stories spread across from the 1970s, all in one package. One story features the 3rd Doctor, and the 2 other stories features the 4th Doctor. So without further ado, let's get on with this. Let's take a look at the front cover of this box set before delving in to all the DVDs which are included in this set. So once again, you have the Doctor Who logo, you have Myths and Legends. At the centre, you've got some screen grabs from the stories which are included in this box set. You've got the 3rd Doctor, the 4th Doctor, you've got a temple here, you've got Kronos, you've got a Nimon, you've got this chap from Underworld, and you've got the Master as well. And as you can see, it gives you all the stories that are included. So we have the Time Monster, Underworld, and the Horns of Nimon. This is a 12 and is a 3-disc set, so it's 1 disc for each story. And the description at the bottom just reads, the legendary stories of Atlantis, Jason and the Argonauts, and the Minotaur get a Doctor Who makeover in these 3 classic 1970s adventures. If we have a look at the side, that is what it looks like at the side. So it's pretty much the same picture as on the front cover, and it just says Doctor Who, Myths and Legends, and again it tells you which stories are included in the box set, and it tells you once again that it is a 12, and it is made by the BBC and To Entertain. And the other side is just the same. There is where you would include all the cases for the DVDs, but if you know me that well, you know that I display all the box sets that I have in my collection on a separate shelf. At the top just says Doctor Who Myths and Legends, and at the bottom you've just got your usual crap, which the BBC do on the DVD box sets. So without further ado, let's now take a look at the DVDs, starting off with the Time Monster, a 3rd Doctor story. Yes, this is quite an interesting one, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. The front cover, you've got the same picture of the 3rd Doctor and the Master and Kronos and the Temple, but you've also got this guy from Atlantis and this woman from Atlantis. So yeah, that's basically what's going on. You got some clouds and like an explosion in the background, so quite nice. And you've got these weird TARDIS roundels in the background, which are the same TARDIS roundels as what I have right here, because that's what the TARDIS roundels looks like in this one and only story. Now, this story is PG. Spine, nothing to talk about. Bit of fire going on there, and as you can see, all the usual stuff. Got your usual screen grabs at the top. The story was written by Robert Sloman. The Master is back, assuming the alias of Professor Thascales at the Newton Research Unit at Cambridge University. He harbours his latest deadly plot to seize control of time itself. Can the Doctor and Jo thwart his terrible plan? What secrets does the mysterious trident-shaped crystal hold? Why is the ancient city of Atlantis central to the Master's plan? And what mythical terror lies at the heart of the maze? With time literally against them, the odds might just be too great for the time travellers. Now, the special features for this, there's quite a few. It includes a commentary by John Levine, Susan Pale-Hedlerton, I can't even pronounce that, so sorry about that, Barry Letts, Marion McDougall, and writers Graham Duff, Phil Ford, Joe Lidster and James Moran, and it is moderated by Toby Haddock. We have Between Now and Now. Professor Jim A. Kelly looks at the science behind the Time Monster, featuring Katy Manning and Richard Franklin. Restoration comparison, a brief before and after comparison of the picture restoration process used for this DVD. To be honest, I say that's the best special feature. And we also have the usual special features which you find on most of these DVDs, such as Radio Times, production subs, photo gallery, coming soon trailer, and digitally remastered picture and sound quality. And the story broadcast dates were between the 20th of May and 24th of June 1972. This was produced by Barry Letts, directed by Paul Medard. It was the sleeve text, which was by Sebastian J. Brooke, and the cover was by Clayton Hickman, and the feature length time for this was 147 minutes approximately, as this was 6 parts long. There we just have the leaflet which you see inside, and there we have the disc for the Time Monster, just featuring the Doctor, the Master, and Kronos. And Kronos is easily one of the least intimidating villains in all of Doctor Who's history. So my brief thoughts overall for this DVD release: I'll go over the special features briefly. They're not anything to write home about, I'll be honest with you. The best one, like I said, was the restoration process for this. I really find it fascinating when they do special features on how they restore stories like this one. They've done it on other DVDs as well for other stories that have been released through the years. It's just something that's always fascinated me. So I'd say for this particular DVD, that special feature is the best. The story itself, it's not that great, to be honest. It is easily one of my least favourite stories ever. It is definitely one off, if not the worst, Jon Pertwee story, and I really like Jon Pertwee's Doctor. I think his era is almost flawless, but this was a one-off bad story in my eyes. It was actually probably the least, it's my least favourite out of this whole era, and it's definitely my least favourite Roger Delgado Master story as well. I just don't really care for the plot. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's too long. So yeah, it's a shame really, because this really did have a lot of potential as what was the season 9 finale. But oh well, there's still hope. We've still got 2 more stories in this box set. Next one is Underworld. So this came out a few years later, because by now Tom Baker was well established as the 4th Doctor. So on the front cover we've got this guy carrying a woman. We've got this guy as one of the villains, and then we've got the 4th Doctor just looking a little bit miserable, and then we've got this cave that strangely looks like some excrement. And suitably, this DVD is a 12, hence why this box set overall is 12. It's because of this story it's a 12. I don't know why it's a 12, to be honest. I can't see why it's a 12. There's a little bit more going on here on the spine. And this story was by Bob Baker and Dave Martin, and they wrote quite a few stories in the 1970s. Some of them were good and some of them were forgettable. At the very edge of the known universe, the TARDIS materialises on an ageing spacecraft, the R1C. On board, the Doctor and Leela meet Jackson and his crew, who were doggedly pursuing their mission to recover the Minion race banks from a ship which left their home planet centuries earlier. Closing in the last on the P7E, Jackson risks everything to follow the trail into the heart of a newly formed planet. Can the Doctor help Jackson face his greatest challenge yet and secure the future of the Minions? Now, special features, and I just realised when I say minions, sound like I'm talking about those yellow dudes from those films. I'm not, but I digress. Special features, commentary is actually by Tom Baker, Louise Jameson and co-writer Bob Baker. Into the Unknown, a look at the complex production of Underworld and the difficulties of achieving the blue screen and virtual studio sets, featuring script editor Anthony Reid and actors Jonathan Noof, Norman Tipton and designer Dick Coles, and video effects supervisor, or designer rather, AJ Mitchell. Underworld in a studio using time-coded video recordings we are given a rare glimpse inside the studio during the recording of this story, and all the rest are basically the usual special features. So the story was broadcast on BBC One between 7th of Jan and 28th of Jan 1978, so it's almost exactly over 41 years ago. Produced by Graham Williams, directed by Norman Stewart, and the runtime for this is 89 minutes. The sleeve text by Sue Crawley, and once again, like The Time Monster, the cover is by Clayton Hickman. And here is all your notes for the leaflet. Talks a little bit like Star Wars. And there's your disc. Yeah, it talks a bit about Star Wars on the sleeve, because I think if it wasn't for Star Wars, they wouldn't have tried to make this. Did it work? Absolutely not. This is the worst looking Doctor Who story, probably, I'd say, of the 1970s. I was going to say ever made, but there were some worse looking ones of the 1960s. But for a product of its time, in 1970, or what would this been? 1978. It wasn't that good, right? They didn't need to do this, and to be honest, the story itself, it doesn't really help either. The story doesn't really go anywhere. It's just boring. Once again, I just find it really, really boring. It's awful. It might be one of the worst stories ever. So yeah, that's Underworld, not to be confused with those Kate Beckinsale films. But it's okay, we've got one more, and that is The Horns of Nimon. Now this could be the saving grace of this box set. So, The Horns of Nimon. The front cover as the 4th Doctor, Romana 2, if you want to call her that. Graham Crowden as Soldeed, who was like the villain of this story. You've got the Nimons, you've got a bit of the set in the background, you've got them firing lasers, which I guess is quite cool. Got a triangle in the background, and you've got K9. Best looking cover out of the set. And that's the spine, bit of the laser going off there as well. And this was written by Anthony Reid. When the TARDIS collides with a spaceship en route to the planet Skonos, the Doctor, Romana and K9 soon uncover the horrific truth about its cargo. The ship is carrying young sacrifices for a powerful horned creature known as the Nimon, but why is the creature so desperate for the delivery of what other dangers await the time travellers? All will be revealed at the centre of the labyrinthine power complex on Skonos. Now, special features include a commentary by Lalla Ward, Janet Ellis, Graham Crowden and writer Anthony Reid. Who Peter, Partners in Time, a special documentary looking back at the relationship between Doctor Who and Blue Peter since the 1960s, presented by former Blue Peter presenter Geffen Jones. Reid, the writer, Anthony Reid, writer of The Horns of Nimon, looks back at the story. Peter Howell's demo music over the beginning of part 2 of The Horns of Nimon, and all the rest are the usual special features. The story was originally broadcast on BBC One between the 22nd of December 1979 and the 12th of January 1980. Produced by Graham Williams, directed by Kenny McBain, sleeve text by Murray Liang, and the covers by Clayton Hickman, and the runtime for this is 101 minutes. This is 4 parts long, but it's a bit longer than a few others for whatever reason. That is your notes for this story, and that is your disc. So, quite a few notable things about this story. This was the last ever story, and a lot of people will know this anyway, but I'll say it for those who don't. It's the last ever story which was broadcast to feature the original theme tune of Doctor Who, or the 1967 arrangement of the Doctor Who theme tune anyway, even though it was more or less the same as the 1963 version. Last one out of the 1970s, partly the first of the 80s as well, as you may have just seen. And the last to feature the title sequence, which was used ever since the beginning of Tom Baker's era with Robot. So it really was the end of an era, somewhat. Sharda would have been officially the last one if that got officially released. If that got officially broadcast, I should say. It has been released numerous times, as a lot of people are very aware of. But as for this story, yeah, I'm saving my thoughts up for the story, aren't I? I've built it all up to this. I don't know what's worse, this story or Underworld. Now, Graham Crowden, a soul deed, he might be the worst performance in all of Doctor Who history. Might be, because I am aware that Richard Briers also performed in Doctor Who in Paradise Towers, and if you've seen my DVD review of Paradise Towers, then you know how much I hate his performance in that, as well as that story overall. And this, yeah, I hate this story. You know, the only good thing about this story, I'm going to say, is Tom Baker, because it's Tom Baker. Everything else is just shit. The Nimon are shit. I don't care for the villain. I don't care for this whole story overall. And the same goes for Underworld. And the same goes for the Time Monster. This box set really was some sort of disaster. The saving grace of this DVD, however, is definitely the special features. This DVD has the best special features. So once again, what we have got is essentially a shitty story, but we've got some quite good special features. So yeah, that's enough said about the Horns of Nimon. I like the title though. I think the title's cool, but still, the story, not so good. So overall, Myths and Legends might be the worst ever box set that has ever been released by the BBC, because the common theme is like all these myths and legends, so they just package these three stories together. So yeah, people didn't have to buy them separately, just got them all in one go. Is it worth the price? Was it worth the price? Probably not, but the only reason why I got this box set was simply because of completionist reasons. That's all I can say. Honestly, I can't recommend this box set for newcomers to the classic series, because if you bought this straight away, then you probably would be making a mistake. The Time Monster might just be John Pertwee's worst story, and Underworld and the Horns of Nimon are definitely two of the worst Tom Baker stories. So what you're getting here is basically the worst of John Pertwee and the worst of Tom Baker, all packaged in one nice, pristine box set. So thank you, BBC, and thank you to Entertain for all of that. Oh yeah, and thank you all for watching this DVD review. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel for more DVD reviews. Hopefully I shall be doing some more upbeat DVD reviews, because I really didn't enjoy watching the stories that are in this box set, and it's quite depressing talking about them, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye for now.